Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome back to day 6 of the Sit and Go Trainer, and today we're going to be talking about calculating pot odds, which is building on the fact of how to calculate your outs of yesterday's lesson. So just to recap what we did yesterday, you were looking on how to calculate your outs. You knew on a flush draw it was 9, and hopefully now you sort of put that to memory and you kind of know how to calculate your outs. It's not that difficult, and the more practice and the more times you do it, you find it becomes a lot easier to use. So now you may have seen on TV, we see all these times where these guys are chasing their straights and their flushes, and are they getting the proper odds? We hear the announcer saying he's getting the right odds to call, and so on. I just want to show you a very quick and simple trick to do, so we don't have to worry about all the tough calculations. So what that is basically a simple 4 and 2 rule. So if you remember this, it's going to make everything much easier. And this is what I personally use. It doesn't bring it down to an exact science, but it's a good enough estimate for you to know whether you need to continue on with a hand or you need to fold. So basically how it works is after the flop, you multiply the amount of outs that you have by the number 4. So for example, let's say, for example, you had a flush draw. You know you have 9 outs. You multiply that by 4. It gives you 36. So it's going to give you a 36% chance that you're going to actually have a chance to win that hand, which is roughly about 1 in 3. Oh, sorry, 1/3 of the time. So you need to continue with that hand. You know that if you're going to only win it 1 out of every 3 times, you need at least 2-to-1 odds to continue with that hand, meaning that every 3 times you're only going to win it once. So 2-to-1 would break you even. Anything above 2-to-1 odds, it makes it a correct call a correct play to call and continue on with that hand. The other rule is the 2 rule, and that's after the turn. So if you've missed your flush on the turn, then you multiply your outs again by the number 2. So if you were chasing, let's say, a flush draw, you missed it, you multiplied it by 4 as 1 in 3, you're getting the proper odds, you continued, and then after the turn it didn't give you your flush. Well, you take those same outs, which is 9 again, because you're still chasing that same flush draw, and then you multiply it by 2, which, so 9 times 2 gives you 18%, which is roughly about 20%, or you know that you're going to win it 20% of the time, which is basically you're going to need at least 4-to-1 pot odds of 4-to-1 to be able to make that call there. Anything above 4-to-1 is going to put you in a positive play in the long term there. So I'm going to show you an exact example, but just to get back to the outs that we looked at yesterday, you got 9 for the flush draw, so we know we multiply this by 4 and then 2, 4 and then 2, and it gives you a rough idea of how this works here. Let's have a look at an actual example here's an actual example that I did for one of my students. This is one of the hand histories that he actually sent in here, and it shows you the proper decision making there. So I'm going to run this one here. You're going to see here he's in the big blind with a 2-8 of clubs. No one raises it pre-flop, so he's already in for free. So if we actually look at that, let's just back that up one quickly. If you actually look up in the top here, he's actually getting 7-to-1. That's what's cool about when you have a calculator. It tells you sort of what your pot odds are, and this is why I suggested getting a calculator. It sort of helps you make these kind of decisions, especially early, and then once you get more experience with it, it's going to come very, very natural to you. But he's getting 7-to-1 anyway, but it's sorry, this guy's getting 7-to-1 where he has to put in 15. He's already in for free. So let's just continue on with this hand. So what happens, he's got a 2-8, he was already in for free with the big blind. Now there's 2 clubs out there, so he has a flush draw. So we know that he's got 9 outs to probably be the best hand unless someone else is chasing a higher flush. But in this case, that's not what we're looking at here right now. We're just looking at sort of how to calculate odds and make sure you're getting the proper pot odds. So we know that he's on a flush draw. He would need at least 2-to-1 odds to continue with this hand. So let's see what his opponents do. He checks. This guy only bets 30. This guy calls 30. So let's just stop it there. Let me just back it up. We know to continue on here, we basically take our 9 outs, we multiply it by 4, that gives 36%. We know that we need at least 2-to-1 pot odds to continue on. Well, what is he getting? He's getting 6-to-1. So this makes it a correct play to call in this situation. So the call is an easy call, and the 4 comes off. We miss the flush. Check, check. So now he didn't have to make a decision. They give a free card. He hits the flush on the end and ends up picking up the pot with a value bet on the end there, and just shows you there. So this guy was a little bit nervous with his top pair over here. He let him get a free card on the turn, and so he was definitely getting the pot odds all the way. Then it checked around for a free card to get him there for the flush, and then a value bet on the end to pick up that pot. And overall, this was played perfectly because of the odds. Now, if I back it up here, and this guy would have made it like a pot size bet in this situation, then you might change your mind if you're going to need to call there. But because he bet 30 into a pot of 120, the odds of 6 to 1 were definitely enough to call and continue on with this club draw here. So hope you can see that scenario there. That's it for this week for the homework. So practice counting your outs, okay, and then get into the habit of multiplying them by 4 and then 2. So you can figure out what your pot odds, and what pot odds you would need. A good lesson or a good practice would be to count them out and then figure out what the pot odds you need to continue on. And then as you do this more often, you're going to see that this is going to become very, very easy and sort of second nature to you. That's it for today's lesson. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about starting hands and talk about the top 10 hand rankings and different hand rankings and grouping them into play. So that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.